Hello everyone and welcome to the Dakota Interviews. I'm Clay Jenkinson, a Distinguished Humanities Scholar here at BSC and the Director of the Dakota Interviews Project. This series of long-form interviews is intended to serve as a kind of cultural inventory of North Dakota at the beginning of the 21st century. Today I have two guests, both students at Bismarck State College, Tesa Curtiss, who's 19, and Bryce Gross, who's 21. Welcome to the Dakota Interviews.
Thank you.
So Tesa, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Like you said, I'm a 19-year-old here at BSC. I'm majoring in social work as of right now. Here taking generals. I work part-time at 2 jobs, and I live on my own with a roommate here in Bismarck. And I am involved in the North Dakota Youth Leadership Board for Youth in Care. What we do is we promote awareness for things going on around in the state. We focus on things going on in foster care throughout the state, things like that.
And why BSC?
Because I wanted to stay in Bismarck for the time being. It's kind of home for now. So.
And what are your jobs?
I work at Qdoba Mexican Grill as a shift supervisor. I've been there for a little over 2 years, and I work PRN as a CNA at St. Vincent's Continuing Care Center.
And you were born in Minot, but you grew up largely in Wichita, Kansas.
Correct.
And now you're back.
Yep, I moved back here in 2008.
And Bryce, you were born in Bismarck.
Yep, born and raised in Bismarck. Been here my whole life. Went to college here at BSC, mostly because it was local and cheaper, and can't go wrong with that. I work a part-time job at Captain Jack's right now, and it's a decent job. It's fun.
What are you studying?
I'm a history major. That's what I'm going for.
Well, is this a terminal degree, or will you go on after this?
I plan on going on. I plan on going to NDSU after I get my generals out of the way here at BSC, and then move on to NDSU and hopefully progress further from there and see what happens.
Well, excellent. So welcome to this. What I want to talk about first is how you see North Dakota. When you are somewhere else, or when you're at a family reunion, or when someone's asking you, what's North Dakota like? What do you say?
For me, I'd say, well, North Dakota has, it's a nice place. Cold winters, obviously, that's one of the #1 things that people have to say about North Dakota is the winters, the long, grueling, cold snow blizzards. As far as the economy, I'd say North Dakota has grown a lot, even within the last 6 years that I've been back. I've noticed a huge population increase, even in Bismarck.
But you were in one of the larger cities in Kansas, and I think you were saying that there's a huge contrast in affordability and jobs.
Correct. Anywhere you go here, pretty much throughout the state, especially here in Bismarck, everywhere is hiring. You can get a job pretty much on the spot at any place. A lot of places I know are very short-staffed, including the place Qdoba where I work. Very short-staffed. It's hard to find people. No one wants to work. Whereas, in Kansas and Wichita specifically, where I grew up, you couldn't find a job to save your life. It was nearly impossible, which is also opposite the rent affordability here in North Dakota. It's insane for the cost of an apartment.
What do you mean by insane?
It's pretty pricey, yeah, compared to what it was 5 years ago, where a person going out of high school could, move into an apartment, have a roommate, and be fine. And nowadays, it's okay. Maybe let's get a 3rd roommate, a 4th, anything to try to cope with the cost, because it's so expensive for someone to actually get their foot out the door and see what they can do for themselves.
So can you do it? You're living on your own with a roommate,
Correct.
2 jobs, tuition, rent, food, all the rest. Are you able to afford to live in Bismarck?
I'd say I'm doing okay for now. That might change depending on what I decide to do with school. But as of right now, with my financial aid and as much money as I'm making, I'm okay. So
it's not so much that you can't do it.
It's just a lot of extra work to try to do it.
Right. It's not. You have to work harder to be comfortable. But once you get to, a certain point, and whether it be your career or however many classes you're taking in school, it becomes a little easier. But
you were going to say?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, when I graduated high school, I moved out and I bought a mobile home. And since I bought this mobile home, like, lot rent's gone up, my bills have gone up, everything's gone up, which makes it so paying the bills has become harder and harder. And so it's becomes more challenging for you to try to stay on top of that, and then still you work more to stay on top of that, but then you lose more social life and more of your free time. And that can be a problem, especially since we are still young and we have to focus so much on trying to stay ahead of the game.
So is Bismarck becoming a more interesting place to live, do you think?
Yes.
How so?
Oh, well, with all the extra people coming in, it's bringing in more business, it's bringing in more money, so then we have more things are popping up for us to go out and do.
Like what?
I don't know, I guess there's more of a nightlife, more bars are showing up, more restaurants are opening up.
And how about the people? I mean, there are lots of new people in North Dakota that are a little different from the kinds of people we grew up around.
It's been a mix. When I was working construction for about a year, and when we were doing construction, like, we had a good, like, core crew, like 7, 8 people, and you'd get influxes of out-of-staters who would be there a week, a day, some that would last, but they fluxed in and out so much.
Why would they do that?
Either they weren't good workers or they were just ready to move on. Say they were there and try to get a paycheck. And
Just like a vagabond type.
yeah, they just really weren't up to the cut of actually staying there, and they wouldn't ever sink in with the group or do what they were really supposed to.
You know, North Dakota is famous for its work ethic, that a North Dakota worker is reliable, they turn up on time, they don't take a lot of sick leave, they're really good, disciplined workers. Are you saying that some of the people that are drifting in don't share that attitude?
Yeah, I don't know the percentages of which is which, but I'd say from what I've encountered, a good majority seem to be just drifting through, and maybe usually when they get further west, they realize they have to work harder to actually keep the job. Because when I'd work in Bismarck compared to Williston, the work ethic is way different. Because you gotta work out in the west. Mm-hmm. They need you to put out your all, otherwise they ain't gonna waste their time with you. Hit Bismarck, they need workers, so they'll just pretty much take anybody and deal with it as much as they can.
Is that how you see it?
That's very much, yeah. I've seen with my job, being there for as long as I have, you know, I'm maybe 1 out of 3 or 4 of the employees still there that have been there that long, and I can't even tell you how many people have come and gone. You know, we've hired them, they've left because of this reason, you know, and going along with the growth of the city, I'd also have to say, you know, with all the outsiders coming in because of the oil or because of whatever reason, you know, Bismarck's gotten a lot scarier. It's not as safe as you would think that it should be, or how I remember it.
What do you mean by that exactly? When are you scared?
Well, I can agree with that, because like 5 years ago, I would have had no worry or discrepancy to I could leave my door unlocked when I left my house.
Leave your car unlocked.
Not have to have a second thought about it. And like now I have a dog, and when I first started walking my dog, no worries, not care in the world, but then it's kind of, I start running into strange people along the way.
This is in Bismarck.
This is in Bismarck, and like, so when I started walking my dog, now I actually carry a knife with me.
No, wait.
When
you
for
walk
safety.
your dog, isn't your dog enough to protect you?
I would like to think so, but I've read
Your dog
stories.
might be scared too.
Yeah.
So you actually carry a knife. What kind of a knife?
It's just a little small 3-inch switchblade.
I carry a knife and mace with me as
just
well.
for safety.
Did you always, or just now?
Just recently. Well, I got mace a few months ago at the beginning of the year, actually, when I took a trip on a plane by myself to a different state that I'd never been to. So anyways, I have mace on me all the time. But I've actually I've left my car unlocked a couple of times. I've had my wallet stolen out of my car numerous times down south.
That's happened to me too.
Now I don't leave anything unlocked.
Right in the parking lot or not in the parking lot, but in the driveway of my parents' house even. I had my vehicle, went inside for 5-6 hours. I came back out, and then my skateboard and longboard were missing. I was like, really?
From your car in your parents' driveway?
Right in the driveway. We were all home and everything, and someone just came right by, like,
And I just
7,
feel
8 at
like
night.
law enforcement too, they're seeing so much of the same crimes. They're so common now that there's just really, I mean, what do they do? I filed a police report about my stolen wallet, and I was actually parked in view of the drive-through camera next door, Taco John's drive-through camera. They were able to see my car, and they were able to see the person that got into my car, but they're just,
Couldn't identify
my
him.
car was left unlocked. Yeah, they're not going to do anything for me.
So you live in Bismarck, the capital of North Dakota, quite a ways away from the oil activity, and yet you're saying that in your short lifetimes, you're experiencing a dramatic change in the sense of safety and security.
Definitely. It's took a whole 180 turn from what I grew up as the norm. And now it's lock your house, shut your garage, lock your car. And that was never the case before. It was more of a open, friendly community. And now it's you have to be watchful of your neighbor type deal. And that's not something I'm entirely used to, but I'm adjusting to.
And are you adjusting, thinking, well, this is the way life is, or how much does it bother you that old North Dakota is disappearing?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to, I suppose, other larger cities, you got LA, New York, I mean, things that we're experiencing, it's been the norm for those places for years. It's just, with everything that's going on in this state, it's become a norm, and it's just something that we have to adjust to or get out.
So I'm hearing you saying that on the whole it's good.
I'd say so.
Is that your view?
Yeah, I'd agree for the most part.
One of the issues that people now face, especially young people, is why would I go to college when there's so much economic opportunity, especially young men. You go out into the area around Williston and Watford City, and there are really high-paying jobs, maybe higher paying than you would get after a 4-year degree at an institution. And as you're saying, anyone who wants to work in the service industries in Bismarck can almost automatically get work at a pretty good wage. So what makes you want to stay in school given that?
For me, it's, well, how long is the oil going to last? I mean, how long are you going to be dependent upon that job? 7, 10, 15 years, and then what are you going to do? You don't have a job, you don't have a college degree, because instead of going to college after high school, you went to work in the oil fields right away. So for me, I'd say for anybody in general, going to college after high school, is the smartest thing that you can do. Not only do you get an education, so you don't have to be that oil worker, just down at the bottom of the totem pole. But if you get your education and get a degree, you can become like a supervisor right away or what have you. So.
See, I can see what she's saying too, but what I did after high school is I first worked a couple jobs and then at hard construction jobs, and I was like, well, I'm doing construction, I'm working hard, why don't I work hard where I can make more money? So I decided to get a job where I'd be working in the oil fields, and I'd just come back on, say, the weekends for 2-3 days.
So wait a minute, your home was here, but you would go out
I'd go out there, I'd live there for 4 or 5 days, work anywhere from 10, 16-hour days. And
at the same job or other jobs?
Same job.
What was that?
Installing fire sprinkler systems. I'd go to Williston, to Dickinson, to Minot, and just everywhere in that little corner of the state, and be working there, live there, and I'd be there with a coworker or two. And it was a total change in lifestyle from what I'm used to.
Where would you sleep?
Usually hotels. I mean, every once in a while you got unlucky and you had to stay in a truck, because when we'd try to schedule hotels, I mean, you have to do it a week or 2 in advance, because there's just so many people without living up there that you have to do that, and sometimes you just strike out and it's time for a couch.
Sleep in a truck or on a couch?
Sleep in a truck, anything where it's comfy.
So how long did you do this?
I did this for like 7-8 months.
And did it pay off economically?
I think so. I made a good chunk of money. I mean, I could pay all my bills back home, and I saved up enough. I got a new vehicle and put money in the bank. I saved up for college, and because I didn't plan on staying out there and working. I knew I'd be out there, make some money, and then one day I could come back to college and better myself that way.
What did you think about the sort of social whirl of being up there? So it's a a night after a long day of work. What's it like being in that world?
It's way different because, say, if you're by yourself or I have a coworker who doesn't want to go out, like I would pretty much be out of luck because it'd be unsafe for me to go to a bar by myself. Or
why would that be?
Because of the people there. I mean, there'd be bar fights happened a lot. I mean, there'd be strangers walking the streets. You don't know who they are, and you hear the stories of what goes on, so you try to be safe and just try to avoid it altogether. I mean, if you're going to go out, you go out with somebody, so you know nothing's going to happen to you.
But you say you a couple of times have gone out with others. What's that like?
Well, I'm happy to say that I wasn't by myself on any of those occasions, but just being there and just seeing the late night action that goes on, and just, I don't like using the word sketchy, but I mean, there's a lot of sketchy people. Even just walking into a convenience store, you know, you don't want to be by yourself. I can't imagine living there, that's for sure.
So you're there with a friend. Are you getting hit on? What's it like to be a woman
Well,
there?
you definitely get looks. I mean, I don't remember seeing another lady there. I mean, she might have been working. She might have been the worker at the convenience store, I guess. I'm not sure. But definitely weren't very many other girls walking around. Safety in numbers, that's for sure. But yeah, we were definitely getting looks. It wasn't to the point where we were getting hit on because we made it look like we had somewhere to be, and which was a good thing. So.
But would you go to a bar in Williston?
Nope.
No, period.
No.
Why not?
The whole scene. I can't imagine getting drunk with a bunch of guys who just worked 16 hours and they want to get crazy, and no.
So kidnapping, let's talk about this. I know this is a concern of yours. There's always been prostitution in North Dakota, but it's been a relatively minor business. Now there's a lot of prostitution in North Dakota, and more than that, there is sex trafficking. So would you, first of all, distinguish the two?
Prostitution has to do with like a single person, you know, putting him or herself out on the street to make money on their body, whatever. Human trafficking, sex trafficking has to do with one or more persons kind of abducting,
That's right.
Abducting a girl, couple girls, you know, selling them for drugs, you know, making them themselves, you know, overdose on drugs to use their bodies, sell their bodies for their personal gain.
And this is going on in North Dakota. How do you know about this?
I've heard a few cases about this going on in my conferences that with the North Dakota Youth Leadership Board that I'm involved. Mostly because like I said, we try to promote awareness for not only youth, but youth in care in general throughout the state. So just being aware of human trafficking and, you know, what it could look like if you're in a public place, you know, kind of things to be aware of. I once heard a story, wasn't too long ago. I was in a conference at the end of September in Fargo for the North Dakota Youth Leadership Board, and my coordinator was telling us the story that she had heard, and I believe it was in Dickinson. It was one of those towns out west, but it had to do with a waitress at a Denny's who was waiting on a guy and then a younger looking girl who looked a little haggard, maybe, you know, not showered in a couple days, whatever, and an older gentleman who may or may not have been her dad, grandpa, what have you. And apparently this gentleman had left the girl in the booth. He went to go use the bathroom, and she was sitting there by herself, and she was confronted by the waitress. And, you know, she asked this girl, "Are you safe? Are you safe? You know, is this guy okay to be with?" And the girl didn't respond, and the waitress didn't know what to do. She didn't do anything. The guy came back, I think, and he had noticed that she was trying to talk to this young girl, and they left before she could say anything or do anything more.
Did you see any of this when you were there?
Yeah, you definitely see, like, well, along the bars, you'll see the prostitutes. I mean,
How do you know there's a prostitute?
Just the way they act. I mean, the way they dress up very skimpy-like, and then like anyone walking by, they
greet them.
Yeah, they'll throw out propositions, and you'll hear things like that.
And are there police around? I mean, this is open prostitution.
I mean, the prostitution does go on, but there's only so much you can do to catch it. And if you do catch the woman doing it, you're not catching the pimps. And those are the ones who are involved in the human trafficking, who are going out and getting the girls, the ones that are corrupting their minds, trying to get them to do these things, or just brainwashing them into these situations so they don't even know any better.
Well, what I hear you saying is that if there's a young man who's working up there and he wants to buy sex, it's not going to be hard for him to find a prostitute. Is that true?
No, he could walk from a hotel to maybe 2-3 different bars.
And this is just that pervasive?
Yes.
We have a really strong ethnic identity in North Dakota, Norwegians and Germans from Russia and Germans and Bohemians and Ukrainians. And there have not historically been that many African Americans or Mexican Americans here, and suddenly with this influx, you see many more people of color than ever before. Do you have friends or acquaintances who are edgy about the diversity, the racial diversity that's coming here?
I had a couple who were a little worried about it, but they kind of gave into it after a while.
Why do you think?
Because there just became so many minorities around that it just became normal. Like me, I hardly met a person of color when I was younger. I mean, there's probably one, maybe two at my high school, and on a day-to-day basis, you just never ran into them. Now, like when I was doing concrete or working out in the Williston area, everywhere, I mean, it's not, the term minority doesn't really apply anymore. They're just as prevalent as everyone else. And so it's just something you just get used to, and it just becomes normal, honestly.
So that initial edginess was not necessarily racism, it was just kind of an anxiety.
Yeah, it was like a cultural clash of sorts, because it just wasn't normal up here. It was just so different.
And it's just change, and North Dakota being as conservative as it is, any change to North Dakota.
Well, what do you think that's who we are, that we kind of don't do change very well?
Well, I think that we've gotten a little used to it, but North Dakota is known for its conservativeness, and so I think with all the different people coming into the state, it's a package deal.
How long do you think this is going to last, this economic boom?
Honestly, I think it's only going to last as long as they can still get oil. I think as soon as there isn't any more oil to be drilled, all of those towns out west that have boomed, new Walmarts being built, new restaurants, ghost town. What else is there to do? You don't
think people will want to stay?
No. I agree with that completely. I mean, our weather here is horrible. I mean, the wind scares people away, the cold scares people away, and mix that with not having a job, there's going to be no reason to stick around. I agree with exactly what she said, that there's going to be ghost towns everywhere out west after the boom stops. I think the boom will go for at least 2 more decades, but then if we don't manage our money and set up our economy and infrastructure right now, after 2 decades, when the oil runs out, we'll fall, and we'll fall hard, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
What do you think about our politics in the state? We've had some kind of crazy political things going on, and I know some young people are upset that North Dakota has passed a series of anti-abortion laws and has not protected gays and lesbians and so on. Do you have any sense of the politics and whether you think it's good or bad for North Dakota?
I'm not a huge politics person, but I did vote.
Good, good. You too?
So,
well done.
I mean, if something is huge and affects me, personally, or would affect myself in the future, then I'm concerned about it, but in general, I just don't get too involved. So.
That's all right.
Our politics is, I don't know, I guess we're a heavy red state, so you can kind of expect what comes with that. I mean, at times they do things that seems a little like, what are those guys doing over there? But the passion, like you said, some abortion laws and things like that. I mean, I feel we should be working on more pressing concerns than focusing on such a hot topic and try to push that through. I mean, focus on the oil and what it's doing to the state, from, you know, the environment to the people to the economy. Just work on that. Don't be branching out so many other areas. Just try to deal with the main problems we have at hand. And that's what I'd like to see, but it's not going to happen.
So let's talk about environment for a minute. How big an impact do you think this whole thing is having on the environment of North Dakota? What did you see when you were out there? Is it okay, or is it good or bad?
There's a lot of flaring when I remember that, driving around at night, or even during the day. They're so big you could see just giant flames just coming up here, smoke over there. I mean, you drove by a couple oil spills, and it's like,
that can't be good.
Right?
But I mean, some people think, no, this is just good industrial development. Comes to the territory, and other people think, no, we're damaging the environment of North Dakota. Where are you in that?
I think we're damaging it because there's a lot of oil spills that I read about, and I know I read about one that I think is 20,000 barrels spilled, and no one was told for 11 days. It's like, why does that happen? I mean, there should be more clairvoyance about what's going on so we can better adjust to those problems. If we don't know there's no oil spill for 11 days, I mean, that sets it up where we don't think it's happening as much, or it's not as bad as we think. I mean, I can only imagine there's some we don't hear about, but...
We just have a couple more minutes. I want to ask you one last question. It's fascinating. I really appreciate your candor in talking about these things. If someone came to visit you from Massachusetts or Florida, said, take me to your favorite place in North Dakota, where would you take them?
I would have to say, doesn't matter if it's public. No.
No.
That's a hard one.
How about you? You start.
Probably Fort Lincoln.
Why?
I'm a huge hiker, and it's a spot I started to go. It's got a good view of the whole area. It's got history of North Dakota. So I'm a history major. It's just like, I like reading it when I go by and taking the different scenery. It just gives you a good taste of it because you can see, you know, the capital, Mandan, and then you can still see the nature of North Dakota all around you. And I just think that's a good, I don't know, vibe it sets up for you.
And have you spent time in the Indian village out there and the museums?
Yeah, I've checked all that out, gone through all the exhibits and seen all the mud huts and checked that out. It's nice, and I like seeing it and learning more about it.
Well, that's a great choice. What are you thinking?
I would have to say my foster parents' lake cabin out at Strawberry Lake.
Where's Strawberry Lake?
It's in between, it's hard to explain, it's in between Bismarck and Minot.
Okay.
Somewhere by
just one of those
Turtle
little
Lake.
lakes up there
it's
by McCluskey.
Super small, but everyone out there is just kind and just
They have a cabin
nice.
there.
They have a cabin.
How big is this lake?
Not very big at all. You could probably get around the lake on a jet ski 5 to 7 minutes.
But you can swim in it and ski in it.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's...
It's just, I love just everyone there, all the families that have lake houses out there. It's definitely a place you can, you know, leave your own cabin unlocked, you know, have people over. It's definitely an inviting atmosphere out there, so.
How often do you get to go?
I'd say about twice a summer. It's pretty hard to get out there with working and everything, even though it's not that far, but so.
Well, we wish you both well. Bryce Gross, who is a history major here at Bismarck State College, and Tesa Curtiss, we're glad that you're here. Good luck with your careers. Thanks for having this conversation. I'm Clay Jenkinson, and this was a Dakota Interview. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone and welcome to the Dakota Interviews. I'm Clay Jenkinson, a humanities scholar here at Bismarck State College and the director of the Dakota Interviews project. We see this as a cultural inventory of North Dakota as the 21st century begins. We're interviewing people from all over the state, young and old, poets, farmers, ranchers, theologians, people of every walk of life, trying to get a sense of the mood and pace of North Dakota as the 21st century gets underway. And today, two students from Bismarck State College, Ali Quarne, who's 21 years old, and Ty Shopper, who's 19. Ty, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
I'm Ty. I grew up in Beulah, North Dakota, and I've lived there my whole life. I'm going into pre-pharmacy at BSC right now, and I plan to move to Fargo to go to NDSU after my years here and to get finish my degree there.
And why didn't you go directly to NDSU?
BSC is a lot cheaper. I was way more familiar to it, and I lived closer to it. I've been around Bismarck a lot and worked here over the summers, so I like it here.
You're liking your start here.
Mm-hmm.
And Ali, what about you?
I was born in Minot, North Dakota. I grew up in Bismarck, and I'm 21. I go to BSC to become a gynecologist. I moved away for a short time to California to graduate high school and get my first year of college out of the way, and then I moved back in the middle of the boom.
And so you will go off to a medical school somewhere, not necessarily UND.
Right.
You don't know yet.
I'm unsure.
Yeah, okay. So talk about leaving and coming back. North Dakota was this sort of quiet farm state, and you're gone for a couple of years. And what was your impression when you returned?
It was different. There was a lot of growth, and I would hear about it when I was gone, but I didn't really grasp the extremity of it. And just a lot more people, a lot of different people, and just kind of a different atmosphere, I guess.
And how do you like the change?
I like it. I think it put North Dakota on the map.
How so?
Because it'd be impossible not to hear about us now. And it kind of gave us strength. I think people kind of found their respect for North Dakota.
So you see more confidence in the people from
I think so.
before?
Yeah.
So on the whole, you're very happy with what's happening.
Yeah, I'm very proud of.
You're proud?
Yeah.
You like being a North Dakotan more than you used to?
Not more than I used to. I've always been proud. But
Why? Why have you been proud to be a North Dakotan?
it gave me a little bit of uniqueness, I think. People would ask me, where is that? When I would say North Dakota. And so it gave me something to talk about, something to teach people about.
So, as you know, lots of people your age don't like being North Dakotans and wish they were anywhere but here, but that's never been your experience.
Not at all.
What about you?
I like being from North Dakota.
Why?
It just gives you, you are proud to be from here. You're raised differently, and things happen here just different than in a bigger city. Just living up here in the country and having a lot more space, and it's just a different feeling.
So you say things happen differently.
Yes.
Like what?
Like school systems, you're in a class where you know everyone in your school compared to being in a class where there's multiple schools in different towns and you don't know anyone. You know everyone in your town and you kind of feel like a family.
I think that kind of gives North Dakota a little bit of a generalization, though. I grew up in Bismarck and he grew up in Beulah, so he's going to have a different experience than I did.
Because you're a big city.
Right, and I didn't know anybody, you know what I mean? I didn't know everybody sitting in the classroom next to me, but I think that's also a good thing about North Dakota is you can have both,
So do you have any concerns about safety now in Bismarck?
In Bismarck, not really. You lock your car, of course. You lock your apartment now whenever I come home, where in Beulah I didn't really have to do that too much before the boom. So getting used to that's a little different, but the only problem I have is going out by myself at night, sometimes around a Walmart or something. You kind of got to watch your surroundings a little bit.
You're a strong guy, and even you have some concern about being alone in a parking lot.
Yeah, I'd like to watch my surroundings just in case.
Why do you feel that way? What's your evidence for this?
You see news stories around just Williston and different cities that have gotten it worse than Bismarck, of course, but Dickinson's been one, Williston, there's been incidents, so it just makes you want to keep your surroundings known.
It's amazing. So do you go would you try to buddy up and go places?
Yeah, as if I have another person with me, it's a lot different.
You feel a lot better.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I don't have any concerns.
You just go where you want to go.
Yep, I do what I need to do.
You're not scared?
No.
But you know, you read in the newspapers murders and mayhem and drugs and violence and knifings and beatings. It's not the North Dakota you grew up in.
No.
But you don't feel great concern at this point.
I don't, and maybe that's a little naive, but I'm just very comfortable here, so I haven't been concerned.
Now, back in Beulah, which was a boom town in the 70s, I think your dad works in the industry, right? He got the coal gasification plant.
Yep.
So in the 70s, that was the hot spot, and there was concern about what would happen to Hazen and Beulah and crime and new people and so on. Turned out they're pretty great towns, but now some of the oil activities changing life in Beulah, isn't it?
Yep, like right when that boom happened, Beulah was a really small town, and it started growing, and there was worries about that, but nothing really bad ever happened. And then now with the oil field coming in around there, we have a lot more people moving here to work at the plants because they're expanding, and housing is getting almost impossible to find unless you're willing to pay a fortune. And there's the crime rate, and some things have went up. There was a shooting in 2012 where one person was killed and one was critically injured, and that was 2 people from out of state that were involved in that.
Beulah. That was a big news item in the state. Things like that don't normally happen there.
Nope.
And housing costs have gone up.
Yep.
And how about housing in Bismarck?
In Bismarck, it's kind of expensive now, but you can find a place.
You can. I mean, so it's not out of the range of your budget.
No, it's pricier than it was.
Yeah.
It's pricier.
And it's going up. You know, it's getting more expensive. So I think we should have been more ready for that.
And if you think it's bad here, I mean, try Watford City or Williston.
Williston.
Did you see those headlines that Williston
More
housing more
expensive.
than New York
Yeah.
City? And you think, well, which do you want to live in, Williston or New York City?
Right.
Crazy changes. Do you find the diversity in Bismarck to be more interesting than it used to be? There are a lot of new people floating around.
Yeah, you see more like, usually it was just kind of a German culture, and now you see a lot of different people around people speaking in Spanish behind you in different places, and you just weren't used to that.
What do you say?
I think it gives the people of North Dakota, an opportunity to open their minds a little bit and to realize that we've been behind, that this is everywhere else, you know, and we're just finally catching up, and it's something that you just got to learn to live with if it bothers you, you know. Can't remove someone, so.
How long do you think this thing's going to last?
I think it's going to last quite a while. The Bakken's a pretty big formation. I'd say 15, 20 years here before any of this starts calming down.
How much more?
I don't know, but
A lot more.
a lot more.
This is permanent.
No,
Permanent for your life, maybe.
maybe for mine.
So why do you want to be a pharmacist when you could be out earning $112,000 driving truck out there or working in a plant? Or
That's
a lot of opportunity for people that doesn't involve long years of expensive education.
That's just not something I'm interested in, and some of the safety hazards, like working out in the oil field, yeah, you make a lot of money, but there's more risks and there's no really health benefits. There's a lot of things that you don't get, and pharmacy has been something I've been interested in. I really want to learn about medicines and try to think of some other things that can help people in their lives.
But do you ever think, when you're having to write an English paper or studying for a math exam or organic chemistry, think, wow, I could be out there making a ton of money, having a great life?
Anytime you have a few hours of homework, you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I could be out there just working in the oil field, making probably more than I'm going to make as a pharmacist anyways.
When you see your tuition price.
Yeah, and then you see how much you're paying for college, and you could just walk out there right now and go work there.
Your dad has been in the coal business his whole career, right?
Yep.
Sometimes I wonder how the coal people feel about this, because suddenly all the energy is somewhere else. Oil, oil, oil. Does he have thoughts about that?
Yeah, he does. He's kind of indifferent about it, though. He's like, it's different for him because he's so used to everything being about that, and now it's just switched. But he kind of likes that there's less of a spotlight on their plant and what they do. There's not so much about, oh, pollution from the coal plant, it's so bad, and they get criticized so much, and now the criticism, all of it's turning over to the oil field. So
how do you two feel about fracking? I mean, you hear all these reports of the craziness elsewhere.
Well, I saw a video on YouTube where this guy lit his tap water on fire, or whatever. I'm sure we all saw it, but I mean, yeah, it freaks me out a
Why
little bit.
Why does it freak you out?
Well, because these are people that have been up for hours, you know what I mean? And they're supposed to monitor our drinking water, and it's just important stuff. And I don't know how practical that is.
Do you think it should
I think
go
it should be
away,
a little bit more
better
assessed.
regulated?
Better regulated.
Better regulated.
Yes.
I mean, you have some concerns about whether fracturing is good for the water supply and the
Right.
environment. How big a concern? How often do you think about this?
I filter my water at home, so I think about it almost every day.
I mean, even
I don't know.
here, you have some concern about water quality now.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think fracking's it's a good idea. You get way more oil, yeah, but I think they need to monitor it or be more careful about it. A lot of times you see oil fields now that are just they're just broken and not fixed forever, and it's just a waste then. And when people are fracking and they're the spills getting into water systems, that's unacceptable. I feel like that's something you can't just deal with.
Right.
Do you worry at all about the game, the wildlife?
Yeah, I go out hunting with my parents a lot, and my sister, she's big in hunting. So deer hunting, even the last 8 years, you don't see as many deer. There's not deer in your backyard or running through your town anymore. You got to really go out there and look for them. It's not as easy as it was, I guess.
Yeah. I guess the question I'm sort of wrestling around with both of you is how you decide what you really think about this, because there are some bad things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
We all see that, the headlines in the newspapers and the murders and mayhem and drugs and sex trafficking, and the reduction of wildlife, some spills that are maybe inevitable. But then there are the incredible things that are happening, budget surpluses, jobs for everyone, higher wages for everyone, a new pride that North Dakotans feel in themselves. How do you decide what you think? Does it change?
Yeah, sometimes it changes. I think for the most part, I've always thought it was a good thing because, we do need oil. It does put North Dakota on the map, like she said. It really gave us some, a new light, and it's really good for our economy. There's jobs now, there's better wages, all that. I think that kind of outweighs the bad, but every once in a while when a shooting or something happens, that's when you're kind of change your mind a little bit. But I think the shootings, the drug trafficking, all that has been talked up to a little more than it is.
You think we've exaggerated this mayhem?
And maybe it's true in Williston or some of those cities, but a lot of people think it's just everywhere now, and it's not. It's not everywhere.
I've even been to Williston. I was alone in Williston, and I was fine.
When was this?
A year and a half ago.
What took you there?
I have family who, my cousin works at Halliburton.
And so you were up there and you were alone.
Yeah, well, I ran to Walmart by myself, and I survived. It wasn't, it's nothing.
Was it in any sense uncomfortable?
No, there are a lot of men, but that's not necessarily uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I think the clubs that they have up there now bring a little bit more excitement and trouble than just a town full of out-of-state workers. You know what I mean?
What kind of clubs are we talking about?
The strip clubs.
And are there bunches of them?
I think there's two.
For sure, I know.
And do you think
I think there
that
might be
is
one
not
more.
necessarily good for Williston?
I just hear a lot of, ruckus going on over there. So, and not so much just in the streets, It's not happening like that.
But at Walmart, you didn't feel unsafe?
Not at all.
So when this thing ends after 30 or 40 or 50 years, whenever it is, what do you think it's going to look like?
I know they say they restore your land after all the oil pumps and stuff, but you see restored land, it's not the same. I don't think it's going to have its natural beauty like it did before, like the plains, but I think after everyone moves out and stuff, it's kind of I feel like it might be a little bit of ghost town, though.
Do you think, we reclaim strip mines, and that we've done a pretty good job with that, don't you think?
Yeah, pretty good, but it's just not quite the same,
So you worry about the long-term damage to the landscape a
Yeah,
little?
kind of, and the farming, North Dakota's been huge for farming. I don't know how well farming happens after you frack the land and oil spills come through the water. And so long term, a little bit worried, but right now it's just kind of what you got to get used to.
Ali?
I don't know what we're going to do with all the hotels.
Yep.
We're just going to have a lot of empty buildings.
Well, you know, some of the planners in Watford City and Williston and Stanley and Dickinson are saying some of these workers will wind up staying. Do you think so?
Not at all. All
Why?
I hear from the oil field workers or anybody out of state at all is that they hate this place, can't stand the winters, they don't like the people, and they're bored. They want to go home.
I can understand their concern about the winters. What's their complaint about the people?
I have no idea. My opinion is then leave. Go home. If you hate it so bad, go.
But they think we're dull or
I don't know what they think.
provincial?
A lot say there's just nothing to do in
Nothing
North
to
Dakota
do.
compared to what they're used to in their other states. I
But
guess.
I've been to other states. I've moved to California, and there was nothing to do there either. You know, it's all kind of depends on you. You know.
And so you don't take that very seriously when
No,
they
not
whine
at
about
all.
this place.
No.
Of course, we're used to the winters, so
I don't think you could ever really get used to the winters, but
no.
You almost take a pride from them complaining about it, though. You're like, yeah, I grew up here my whole life. So
yeah.
No problem for us.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good.
If you can survive this place, you can survive anywhere almost.
Do you think that's true? Do you think the North Dakota character is made better by the harshness
Yes.
of this place?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Why?
I think you have to have a real good sense of adaptability and multitasking, you know, because in one day it could snow and, you know, with the sun shining, and just weird stuff goes on, you know what I mean? And not only that, the families here, I think, are more deep. You know, we have more of a sense of community and family values and just morals altogether. So I think that the North Dakota upbringing is unlike any other. I haven't found it anywhere else.
Do you think we'll be able to maintain that in the face of all these social changes?
I don't think we'll have any issue.
None. Why not?
You can't take that away. How do you
think
take
that's
that
just
away?
us?
Yeah.
I think it's tradition passed
Yeah.
down from your family, yes.
So get this straight. I'm very interested in this. You both think that North Dakotans are a stronger.
A tougher type of breed almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Why?
Going through the winters here
We have
and
to
just
be.
dealing with different things here that you don't deal with in other places. Like in other places you can walk over to your friend's house or something. Sometimes here you just got to use your imagination to keep yourself entertained. You read a book here, you go do something besides like in a bigger town just walking around and doing stuff with friends. Like it's just different here.
But if
You have to entertain yourself in different ways.
You have to be comfortable with yourself.
But if you talk to people from Denver or Seattle and said, "What do you think of North Dakotans?" they wouldn't say this, that they're better people, that they have a stronger work ethic, that they have deeper families.
And I think that's just because this is something that you wouldn't understand unless, you know, you experienced growing up here and really feeling it. And just like we wouldn't understand, you know, everything about them. That's anybody.
But do you think we're better than other people?
No.
Not
stronger.
better, but just
I
a
just
different attitude, like a different type of people.
yeah.
But I've talked to some people who work in Watford City and Williston, and they say you can always tell who's a North Dakotan and who isn't. North Dakotans are more honest, they're more punctual, they work harder. Do you think that's true?
100%.
I think a lot of those are true. Those are just traits that I don't want to stereotype, but a lot of people like getting brought up on a farm and working that kind of work or working in the winters and different things, like it does make you a tougher, harder working person. There's
Especially
different values you learn.
with less people, you don't have room to be dishonest. You know, you need those friends. So
What about religion in North Dakota? We're not evangelical like some of the southern states, but religion plays a big role in North Dakota life. Do you think that's part of this or not?
Yeah, kinda. Like, I know when I was younger, like anyone in all my friends, all the people in my class, they went to Bible school when they were younger. You know, their grandparents taught them the scripture. Like, it's just part of your upbringing too. Like, it was almost like a second school to me.
yeah, and it's same here. You know, it didn't last really, but
What do you mean it didn't last?
well, you know, after enough kicking and screaming about it, my parents gave up on trying to force me to go to church. And not to say I'm not religious,
You just aren't a church attender.
right. And but yeah, that is definitely a trait, I think, of North Dakota.
And what was the religion of your childhood?
Lutheran.
Lutheran, and you?
Lutheran.
Lutheran. And are you a church attender or not at this point in your life?
Some.
Some.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's part of the North Dakota character. But you feel you're not discriminated against for not being regular churchgoers.
No, I don't think so. I think in the past it might have been that way some.
Your families aren't disappointed in you for your
Not at
Grandparents.
yeah, a little.
Yeah.
What do your grandparents? Where do they live?
They live in Beulah
And
also.
are they retired?
Yep.
And so, how big is Beulah in your life?
It's always just home, you know, like it's so weird to think of Bismarck as my home now.
Why is that?
When people ask where I'm from, it's just Beulah. I've just
Beulah.
grown up there forever.
You're
And it's
proud of
just-
Beulah.
Yes, I am.
When you go home to Beulah, what do you do after you get settled?
Oh, you just try to meet up with your old friends, or you go back and talk to some of your old teachers, just any people that you see that you remember. It's just cool how they've had an impact on your life.
Mm-hmm. And Bismarck is a much bigger place, but do you feel similarly about it? It's home?
Yeah.
And what did you think of Chico, California?
California, I attended high school in Chico, and then I did 1 year of college at Shasta College in Redding, California. And I also, I worked through school. And the jobs and the schools, at least the ones that I went to and had, just expected less of me than they do here. It's like all I had to do was show up, and that was about it. And here you have to apply yourself, or you're just not going to make it. You have to do the work. It's expected of you.
We have higher educational standards,
Yes.
you think,
Yes.
than other places.
Yeah.
How do you think that's true at BSC?
Yeah, that too. I think BSC is one of the better like junior colleges. You don't really compared to other junior colleges that you see around. It's just a different environment here. It doesn't feel like a junior college. It doesn't feel like I'm getting any less of an education than a 4-year school. I think
I'd agree
it's
with that.
taken more seriously here, and I really like that.
Where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years?
Here, probably. I wouldn't mind staying here.
But you don't feel a strong desire to be a North Dakotan necessarily, or to stay here?
Yeah, it would take a little bit to rip me away, but
Really?
yeah, but it's not. I'm not ruling it out, But I would like to stay here.
So you'll have a family and you'll be somewhere, maybe North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I want to stay around North Dakota for sure.
Why?
I really like it around Beulah. I want to, if I
You
could
wanna go back?
if I could go back to Beulah and work there, yes, I would. But I like Bismarck too. I've traveled to Las Vegas and a lot of different places, Minnesota's, and it just doesn't feel the same. I just like how things are around North Dakota.
So what's your ideal situation? Is there a Rexall drugstore in Beulah that you want to have?
There is a pharmacy down in Beulah that'd be really cool to just be back there, kind of where my parents are still going to be.
Any chance that that's going to happen?
I think there is. I mean, it depends on future relationships and just how everything works out. But even just around Bismarck or somewhere close around, hour or two away from Beulah would be nice.
And so Ali, if someone came to visit you from New York or Chico, said, take me to your favorite place in North Dakota, where would you go?
Probably up on the Mandan Indian Village Hill. You know what I mean?
You mean right here by BSC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I know that's totally kind of overdone and that's everybody's spot to go or whatever, but I don't know, I really love it. I love going down and exploring and stuff like that.
So I'm guessing you're going with that person to Beulah.
Yeah, I'm taking them to Beulah. There's a Riverside Park right on the edge of town, and there's a place you sit down by the river. It just has a few benches out there. It's called Shannon's Place.
This is on the Knife?
Yeah, right on the Knife River. It just
It's called
looks right over.
Shannon's Place?
Shannon's
What
Place.
is it?
It's just a park. It's remembering a person who died who was 16 years old named Shannon, and that was their favorite place to go and sit out there. So they have a little memorial down there, a few benches. They have a rope swing across the river, and it's just where I spend a lot of summers down there with friends.
Just a community park on the edge of Beulah.
Yep, on the edge of Beulah.
And does your family ever go to Lake Sakakawea?
Yes, that's where we spent all of my summers growing up, is camping out.
You camp there. Where?
Yes, right at Beulah Bay. Beulah Bay, Beaver Bay, or Dakota Waters.
What about the Badlands? Do you ever go out there?
Not too much besides hunting.
You hunt there.
Yes, some.
But this is not a part of your cultural life.
Me, I mean, I've been there, but I don't get out there regularly.
What do the oil boom near Stanley or near Crosby or near Watford City is just on land. But when it gets to the Badlands, now it's in this incredibly beautiful part of North Dakota. Do you think we should do anything special there?
That's where it gets kind of touchy, is just like, especially like the Roosevelt National Park and stuff like that. Like that's just stuff you can't mess with that because it's been here so long. It's like that's part of North Dakota's natural beauty. You got to keep some of it without, destroying.
And we
it
don't
all.
have a lot of tourist attractions. I think we should keep the ones that we got.
Well, how should we protect them?
You just the oil field just can't go near that. You can't destroy that kind of stuff or mess with that. That's just like historical. It's just tradition.
Yeah, I agree.
So we should have laws
Yes,
to protect
laws
that.
Just like
protecting
everywhere else.
certain areas.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you would be in favor of the
I
state
would be.
government doing special protections for these places?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would be.
What parts of North Dakota have you never been to that you might want to visit?
I've never really been to like Stanley or where that kind of oil field is going on. So it'd kind of be cool to go just see
Just to take a look.
how different it is or how weird it is now.
How about you?
Just the Peace Gardens. I haven't been up there. I think I've been everywhere else, but
You have been around the state. And but your favorite part of the state is here. And do you spend any time on the river, either of you?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
What do you do on the river?
boating.
We go fishing. Me and my dad do on the Missouri sometimes.
So we're just about out of time. Let me ask this sort of last question or two. If you went to Paris or Rome or someplace and you met a group of people who understood English and they said, "Tell me about North Dakota," how would you do it?
I have been to Paris and Rome, and I have met people who have asked me about North Dakota, but I went when I was very young, so I didn't have much to say. But if I could do it over, I would just say that it's pretty indescribable now. Before it was kind of calm and quiet, and obviously very important to me. But I just feel like North Dakota is kind of changing, but I'm not. My sense of it isn't. And so I would just kind of tell them, if you need to go there, because there isn't. I don't think I could sum it up.
But what if they say, what does it look like?
It's just so open. Like I think there's like no trees, just rolling hills. Like it's a different landscape than you're used to. Like I just tell the people that you really do have to just come here to experience it. Like to experience the people. You don't just walk down the street and say hi to people in other places or wave to all the drivers that pass you. Like that just happens here. It's just a thing that's always been here.
And it's not something that we think twice about.
Yeah, it's not weird if you wave to a random person you don't know. People ask, "Who's that?" I don't know, it's just waving.
Yeah.
And other people from other states are like, "Why would you do
guys
that?"
are weird.
Yeah.
You're weird.
Yeah, it's different to them.
And so if they said, should I move there, what would you say?
I would, yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the
If you're ready
perfect
for the
place.
winter.
Yep.
You'd warn them.
Bring your coats.
Yeah.
Bring your coats. It's a long, long winter. So thanks for coming in. It's been a really interesting conversation. You've been watching the Dakota Interviews. We'll see you next time. I'm Clay Jenkinson.